Welcome to another Conversation with a Community Leader. I'm Carli Meurs, your Executive Director of Leadership Kitsap Foundation, and today I have the pleasure of hosting this show before I turn it over to our special first guest, Dave Walters. Dave, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Carli. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, before I talk about handing the torch over to you to start the next chapter of the show, why don't you tell us a little bit about you today?
Okay. So I'm actually born and raised here in Kitsap County. I've lived here my whole life. I grew up in Suquamish, went to Suquamish Elementary School in the days where you walked to school. Suquamish wasn't near the metropolis that it is now. It was very small, and it was a great place to grow up. So I went to high school at North Kitsap. I'm a true Generation Xer. I graduated in '84, so right in the middle of Gen X. So I've got that. When I was a senior in high school, you know how seniors know everything.
Of course.
So I was convinced there's two things in my life I would never do. I would never go to Olympic College, and I would never ever work in the shipyard. My whole family's either sold insurance or worked in the shipyard. So I was gonna break that mold. Well, lo and behold, I did 2 years at Olympic College, which is really one of the jewels of Kitsap County. A great opportunity there. I know you went to OC as well.
I did.
Yeah, it's just a great thing for our community. So I went to Olympic College, and then I transferred to Gonzaga University, where I picked up my degree in mechanical engineering, and met my wife. We started dating our senior year just before graduation. So it took me a month or two to convince her, but we started dating right after just before graduation. And then got hired in by the shipyard and came straight to the shipyard.
All right.
2 weeks after graduation, because I was broke.
Oh, really?
Yes. So.
Good setup. So I know we're going to have some questions, and our viewers putting two and two together. Just maybe mention, who is that wife of yours?
Oh, my wife is the county commissioner, Katie Walters, for District 3.
There you go.
So she just started in January. So that's kind of a great change in our life. She's doing that, and I just retired in February. So we're kind of empty nesters trying to sort things out right now.
Perfect, and a perfect transition. So we're glad that we could fill up a little bit of your time.
Yes, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to conversations with the community leader. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I wanted to follow up on a bunch of those
okay. Yes,
tidbits. I think let's bring it back. When did you become a part of Leadership Kitsap? Because you're a longtime alumni.
Yeah, so I was actually in the class of 2003, which I know 2023, this is our 30th year, right? So the program is already 10 years going when I went through the program. So everything was really established and going by the time when I took the class. I was working at the shipyard, and most of my community involvement, being a dad of 3 boys, was always kid related, right?
Yeah.
It was or family related. We were the mowing crew at church. Me and the boys were. We did did a lot of things with our church. Did a lot of things with youth sports. Coached. Did a lot of coaching when the kids were little. I quickly found though that when one of my sons would hit 2nd grade, I dropped back down to the younger ones, because somehow 3rd graders and my knowledge of soccer didn't quite line up. That was about as good as I could get them. I could get them to 2nd grade. 3rd grade, their skill set far exceeded mine. But I did enjoy coaching the little kids. That was actually a lot of fun. A good trial of patience. So I did. That was kind of my involvement, really in the community in my 30s and 40s. And then the shipyard gave me the opportunity to go to Leadership Kitsap to take the class. My manager at the time encouraged me to go do it. So I signed up and went it. And the shipyard, our year sent 2. I believe shipyard always sends folks. We sent 2, and I think we usually do 2 or 3. And I went through the class in '03. It was very, for me, it was enlightening, because I've always, growing up in the shipyard, any training I did, my social circles, everything was very shipyard. And then suddenly to go work on projects with people that, were from nonprofits, other government agencies, or even private industry, it was a super unique opportunity for me. I think that was all. I'm really good friends to this day with people that were on my project team. Which
That's great to hear.
Yeah, which is awesome. 20 years later. It has been a long time. My wife was pregnant with my youngest, when I went through LK. So now he's a junior in college.
Yeah.
So.
Well, all three boys are doing really, really well.
Yeah, the two older ones are off doing their careers, and the youngest is a junior in college. And side note, all 5 of us did go to Gonzaga University. And I've got a couple nieces that are there and also graduated from there. So yeah, a lot of family went to Gonzaga. So Leadership Kitsap, when I went through the class, it was just a unique opportunity for me. One, I got to see things I'd never seen before and have discussions. I remember the community health day. For me, it was something that was like eye-opening for me. So that was really good. And then also learning about really the challenges that the county was facing. And it's kind of funny that, or it's interesting that the challenges our community is facing now are pretty much the same ones we've always faced, right? It's kind of the same problems. It's just which ones are the top 5 biggest ones, or which ones are really cruxing their head right now. But it was a great opportunity to go through the class. I left there, and then I went and I actually joined the board of a few youth sports organizations. And I did that for a couple of years until the kids were in high school, and then moved on to high school sports and everything, and they didn't need dear old dad at that point. And then, however, a friend of mine was on the board of Leadership Kitsap, and Rick Tift was on the board, and he had just finished his 6 years. So the shipyard tapped me on the shoulder, and Rick did, and said, "Hey, you need to be the shipyard person on the board." So I jumped into a real board. Not that the youth sports aren't real boards, but Leadership Kitsap is a working board.
Much different.
And it was fun, eye-opening. I still remember my first meeting not having a clue what to do. We met at Harrison Hospital in Bremerton at 7 in the morning on Thursday mornings, once a month. And and then I did Leadership Kitsap board for 6 years, and got through the executive board. And when I finished up, I was board president. So that that was a very unique opportunity and a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like you were presented opportunities and you kind of jumped in and took them as they presented themselves. Is that a reoccurring theme, or did you have some expectation? Yeah, I really want to become president one day and share your vision.
No, I actually. I never say no to work. That's kind of I don't know.
That's good to know, Dave.
I know. I know. I'll learn to say no though.
Yeah.
But when opportunities arise, I try to jump on them. Try to make the best of them. In moving around the shipyard, I was always asked to go do a different job, and then went home and thought about it and realized I wasn't really being asked. I was being told, and then off I'd go do a different job. And it's funny how all those opportunities tend to work out, in the end. And of course, it is what you make of it. But no, it's willingness to jump in, I think, is pretty important.
Very solid advice. So before you retired the shipyard this year, you were kind of a big deal. You had a bunch of people you were leading. Can you tell me about that experience, how all of your previous leadership experience led up to that moment, and how you left your crew when you did retire?
So I've thought about leadership style and that kind of question, and how you answer that. And I would really describe my leadership as really twofold. One is very strategic, and the other one is very relationship based. And I think I learned those early on in my career. One of the fortunate things I had in the shipyard is when I first hired in, we had a lot of Vietnam vets working in the shipyard. Some of the greatest people in our country, and I got to learn from them firsthand, kind of their perspective. And I think our veterans bring us two two really unique things. They bring us one, a can-do attitude, or mostly it doesn't matter what happens, we'll get through it attitude. And they get that because of the things they've experienced in their life. So that is, I think I learned that early on is, yeah, we can get through it. You don't get to play the victim card. You don't get to have that victim mentality. Yeah, bad things happen. Things break. I used to always joke that we work on mechanical systems worked on by people, worked on and operated by people. So things are going to break. You fix them and move on, and you always seem to get through it. So I think I learned that really from, and I got to work a lot my first 10 years with a lot of veterans. And the other thing they bring is team member. Man, you want someone that's a team member, you have a veteran. So I think they just inherently know how to be a team member and how to actually care about their coworkers. Not that everyone's best friends, but however, I know they know enough that they know I have 3 kids, or they know what I do, and they actually take genuine interest. So I think that real genuine leadership and their attitude of we can get through anything, I think that was really a awesome foundation for me in my entire career. And I think I learned that. And even today with the vets we have today, I think we're learning. We can learn amazing things from them. And so that's kind of like my foundation for how I started my leadership in the shipyard. But the two things I talked about, the vision, really, the strategy. I think leaders really have to come with a vision of where you're going to take your organization, your group, what you're going to look like in 5 or 10 years. Now, in order for your vision to ever be realized, there's a few things it has to have. It has to be well communicated, right? It's got to be communicated and understood. So you got to be able to explain the why. Why do we want to end up where the leader thinks we should end up? The other thing is it has to be sustainable, right? Because you're only in your position until someone moves you to a different position.
That's right. That's
right?
My favorite word to keep in mind.
Yeah. So sustainability. So your vision has to have a sustainability piece. And to do that, no matter where you are in your organization, that vision you have for it has to be in alignment with the overall mission of the organization. Because then the person that comes in behind you is still going the right direction. They may tweak it a little or left or right, but it's still going on the track, which is towards the mission of whatever your organization is. So strategic. The other piece that I think is important with the strategy is I think you always have to have a development piece. You always have to be developing your folks. Especially, whether you're a big organization or a small organization, you have to be able to develop your people. You have to develop your replacement. You have to develop senior managers. You have to develop, your newest hire employee. Right? You got to develop it. So everyone in the organization needs to be a teacher. So that's really, I think, important. At least every strategy I try to build or vision, I try to include a development piece of them, and develop yourself as well.
How do you remind people to invest in themselves? How do you, when you're leading a team or a youth sports group or anybody, how do you say, don't forget about you, and encourage them to come up with some ideas of how they want to work on their development?
So that's awesome. So my favorite quote of all time is Yogi Berra, the old Yankees baseball player.
Yeah.
And it was, if you don't know where you're going, you might not get there. And so kind of out of that, you got to be deliberate. You got to be deliberate in your actions as a leader. You got to be deliberate. You got to be deliberate, and you got to be upfront. That gives you integrity. It gives you trust. But you got to be deliberate, right? Development is something you have to be deliberate about, right? When times are tough, the first thing you want to do is go, well, you know what? We can hold off on training this week. Or, oh, budget's tight, end of the fiscal year. Let's skip training this week. Well, you have to have the discipline to say, no, we're not going to do that. That's part of our job. That's part of what we do. Developing our people and our workforce is really the long-term plan. So it's got to be kind of front and foremost the whole time. It can't be second to anything. It's got to stay right up there with the most important things.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, that's your own personal mission, that statement. Wherever your goal is, that's where you're heading. I
Right.
love it.
The other part that I think I one was successful at, and I also think is very important, is that relationship piece. We have big organizations, small organizations. It's that interpersonal relations that really pay off when for development, especially for developing yourself. Which I will connect in my head. We'll see if I can
believe in you.
connect them as we talk here. Those relationships with your peers, I think, become critical, because that's where you get your development, and that's where you get your other people. You develop your other people,
Right.
not just the people, your subordinates, right? That peer-to-peer thing is vital important. And in fact, that's probably, I think, my biggest takeaway. If I could have one thing on leadership, I would say that first team concept is that I'm mostly accountable to my peers than I am to my employees, which is funny because as a leader or a supervisor, you think the people that work for me they're the most important. Yes, they are the most important. However, for the organization to survive, the leadership have to be in alignment.
Right.
So that kind of the accountability piece, accountability is one of those buzzwords. It's been tossed around for a decade now. And a lot of people go, well, if we just held our people accountable, we'd be better. No, that's not what accountability means. Accountability doesn't mean, I show up on time or I'll do my best, right? Those are just given, right? That's just the given stuff. That's the low-hanging fruit.
Good things to have.
Yeah, it's just the basics you have to have. But the accountability, when I think about reflecting my career, when was I the most successful and constantly the most happy and most fulfilled in my job, is when I held myself accountable for my peers' success.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a tough thing, right? Because that's not necessarily, you're sticking your nose in someone else's business.
How so?
Because the peers' area of responsibility may not line up exactly with mine.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for the organization, we all got to, the shipyard always says you got to cross the finish line together. No one crosses it by themselves. So that peer-to-peer accountability, I think, is really key to the success of a corporation or a company or an organization.
Yeah, it goes a lot with our whole theme of leadership. It's not management, it's not my boss, it's not that, it's you're the leader wherever you are.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this show, is to learn leadership from different organizations, because all these organizations collaborate with each other. Right? They if one is successful, that's awesome, but they all need to be successful. And I think a lot of the leaders that we have in our community think that way, and I think that's really how things get done. So I'm really looking forward to kind of unwrapping that as I interview people and get to know them on how do they work with other organizations. Right? Because they compete for donation money, they compete for whatever. But anyway, I think it'll be an interesting part, and I'm looking forward to that part of the show.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. So we'll watch you make the connections, and then we'll all jump in and see how can we make it a little more streamlined so we can work together for a better Kitsap.
Absolutely, which is our goal. Which is our goal.
Yeah, I love that. There is a little story you told me that I recognize in myself too.
I hate when I get quoted, by the way, because it's always
No.
risky.
Okay, it's not
Okay.
a full quote, and
Okay.
it was off air, but you mentioned that you're not a big book reader, but there are some book recommendations you have, and I thought, that's me. So it's easy to get bogged down with all of these leadership book recommendations, and when you're trying to do some of your own research about what educational materials to pick up on your own, there's a lot. So
There is, and I'm wondering if maybe my not being the best reader, sorry, my librarian friends, was made me want to partner with my peers better to learn from them. But there are a few books that I actually really, as a non-reader, think are important. The first one is 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Not sure if you're familiar with that one, but that one really dives into this whole first team concept on how step back far enough. What's really makes an organization effective and highly functional. The other one I like is extreme ownership. Now that one, you know, you got to take with a grain of salt. You know, it was written by Jocko, the Navy SEAL. So, right. So it's a little macho, but, and all the examples, you know, are wartime Navy SEAL examples, but they still resonate. I think he does a good job of bringing those down to whatever your situation is. You know, leadership is leadership. You know, just plug in the topic. And then, let's see, extreme ownership. 5 function. Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last. I think that's just a great framework for what leaders are expected to be. It just comes out and lays it out. So that's why I enjoy that one, because it just lays out, hey, these are the expectations of leaders. These are what good leaders do. So I like that one. And then my last one I have that I know I've written down here. It's not popping into my head. Oh. First, break all the rules.
Oh, you didn't mention that one before.
So first break all the rules. A decade or so ago, Shipper was struggling with retention, and so we started looking at, well, you know, employee engagement, how are supervisors, and really, I think all employee engagement problems, or the issues with employee engagement, are leadership problems. The book, this book flat out says people quit their boss way before they ever quit your organization.
Absolutely.
Which, wow, that puts a lot on there. And that book kind of dives into 12 questions of employee engagement, and it's kind of things to think about. And the first 2 questions are the most interesting, and they're like the basic things your people have for engagement. And the first one is, do I know what's expected of me at work? Wow. I mean, that's kind of damning for a supervisor.
Right.
If your folks say no to that.
Mind blowing.
Right? I mean, how many times have you had a job though where you're like, that first day, you're like, I'm not sure what's really expected of me at work.
Right.
And then the second question on that one is, do I have the tools to do my job?
That's where the development piece comes in.
Yeah, and that's a
Love it.
development piece. So anyway, those are the books I recommend that I've enjoyed, and quite honestly, those are the 4 I've gone back and reread.
Thank you. Yeah, we always like to have that in our toolbox. So thank you for that. And we're already out of time.
You know, it was going fast.
Yeah. So Dave, thank you so much for being here. I'll give you the official handshake.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome to the show. We're so glad that you're going to be our new host for many years to come.
It'll be a lot of fun.
And that has been another conversation with a community leader. Next time, you'll see Dave on this side of the table and another conversation with a community leader.